District Board of Directors is now called to order for, what's echoing? Thursday, July 31st, 2025. And we're going to start with the roll call.
Phil Block.
Carolyn Watson,
Marta Trilles.
Monica Webster.
Jane Norris.
Kelly Aramaki.
Okay, next we have the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's stand for that. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, good. Next, we have the land acknowledgement. And I was going to tell the community that we have gotten feedback from Native American community members who have requested that from now on, an elected official, an elected board member would read this acknowledgement instead of delegating it to others. So that will be what we're going to do going forward. So I'm going to read it right now. We acknowledge that we are on the indigenous land of the Coast Salish peoples, who include the Duwamish, Muckleshoot, and Snoqualmie peoples. We thank these caretakers of the land who have lived and continue to live here since time immemorial. We reflect on the historic context that brings us to reside on this land, and we accept responsibility to interrupt erasure. We commit to an ongoing partnership with the Snoqualmie tribe as we listen to, learn from, and lead with their guidance. Okay, now it is time for the approval of the agenda, and I'm going to preface with this is we're going to have a little Robert's Rules moment here. What we're going to do is we're going to approve the agenda, then we're going to go on to the consent agenda, then I believe that somebody may want to make a motion to pull something out of the consent agenda. So we'll have that motion on the table. We'll have the motion to approve the consent agenda on the table, then we'll have whatever motion comes up from board members, then to amend that, then we'll amend that, but if we amend it with the, and let's put that into whatever spot on the agenda you want to put it, then we can pass that amendment, then we can pass the consent agenda, and if we do it that way, I think we don't have to go back and do the agenda again because it would have been encompassed in the amendment to the consent agenda. You got that? Okay. So let's start going with, I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Okay, anybody second? Okay. Any discussion about the agenda and all that complication? No. Okay. Let's call the vote for that. All in favor of tonight's agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. The agenda is approved. Now we're going to go on to review the consent agenda. Would somebody like to make a motion to start this the agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
All right, thank you. And then would we like to have some discussion of that? Oh, somebody should second it.
Second.
And then let's discuss. And the discussion could include whoever wants to pull something out. You want to pull it? Go ahead.
I move to pull the Sunburst Workforce Policy 6210 from the consent agenda.
I second that.
Okay, any discussion of that amendment? Oh, I was going to say, it would be nice if we could make the amendment and say, let's pull it out and put it under, what, 2 or 6? Where do you want to put it? Under 6, board business. So make it 6.4?
Yes, please.
So do you want to restate your?
I move to pull the Sunburst Workforce Policy 6210 from the consent agenda and put it under board business 6.4.
Okay, great.
Second.
Any further discussion of that? Do we second that
Yeah.
revised?
Yes.
Okay, so then I'll say, let's take the vote on the amendment to the motion to approve the consent agenda. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And Anybody opposed? No. Okay, so that passes. Now we need to go back and approve the motion for the consent agenda as amended. So any further discussion on that? Did anybody second that? Yeah, we
Second.
did. Yeah, all right, we did. All right, it's easy to get messed up here. Okay. No further discussion there, and now we'll call for the vote to approve the amended consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That passes, and I hope that the people trying to take notes have been able to follow all this. Okay, so now we're going to move on past all of that to superintendent update.
Great, thank you so much. Let's see here. Just a few things I want to share today. First off, just take a look at these really beautiful pictures of our summer school program that we had this summer, both at Stevenson Elementary and over at St. Ambrose High School. For the high school students, it was credit recovery, helping kids to get their credits so they can graduate from high school. And then at elementary, we had summer school for our students, many of our students with disabilities, as well as third grade summer school for kids who are trying to catch up in reading or in math. And so we have amazing educators who worked all summer long to provide really great education for kids. That picture on the top right is my favorite. They had a little talent show in the ESY Elementary. So just really, really awesome. And I'm so thankful for our educators who worked this summer to help kids catch up in reading and in math, to our special educators, teachers, paras, and staff, just for helping kids grow, meet their IEP goals this summer. And then to all of our high school counselors and teachers who work so hard to make sure that our kids get the credits that they need to graduate from high school. So thanks all around for a great summer school this year. Let's see here. So just a couple things. I want to spend a little bit of time today talking about kind of Bellevue's financial challenges. We have a study session happening after the board meeting, so we're going to go in more depth on this. But for those who are listening in on this board meeting, I want to share just a recap of what Bellevue's financial challenges are. And this is mainly for people who may be outside of the district or who haven't been following along this year, because we've been talking about this for months and months and months. But for people who don't have kids in the district, I think the first that they'd heard about this might have been like in the Seattle Times article that came out at the end of June. So I want to just give a quick recap of Bellevue's financial challenges. But then I want to talk a little bit about this term binding conditions, which is what we are in with OSPI. And then I'm going to close by talking about kind of our accelerated path forward. So we're going to do that, and then I'm going to close my time by talking about our amazing community and how the community is stepping forward to encourage and support us during this time. So this is just a quick recap of what the challenges are that Bellevue is facing financially. The first thing that I'll state is the state of Washington has structural funding issues, and we have for many, many years, but particularly since 2018 in impacting Bellevue. And that's because the McCleary decision kicked in, and it basically shifted a reliance on local levies to the state apportionment. That is a thing that needed to happen because school districts were required to raise money locally in order to fund education, and the state really needed to ensure that all districts were funded appropriately. The main challenge, however, with that is that although the funding moved from local to state funding did not keep up with the rising costs that happened from 2018. And so we were capped at what we could collect locally, but the state wasn't giving us nearly enough to fund what our students needed here in Bellevue. And that is the same across the entire state of Washington. So on that structural funding issue, we then layered on challenges. The second thing is we had the COVID pandemic, and the COVID pandemic had a complicated impact on our finances. The first thing that happened was it actually masked some of the structural funding issues because we got an injection of funding from the federal government through the ESSER dollars. And so that masked some of our challenges during COVID, as well as the fact that the state protected districts by holding harmless any drops in enrollment. So at first, the COVID pandemic actually, from a fiscal standpoint, covered up some of the structural funding issues that we were facing. But the second part of COVID, which really impacted us, was coming out of the pandemic, the needs of students just skyrocketed. Kids' challenges around mental health, around academic achievement, attendance, special education, all of those needs just really, they went up astronomically after the pandemic. And so we needed more and more resources in order to be able to meet the needs of our students. On top of all of that, Bellevue had insufficient internal budget assumptions and spending guardrails that would have protected us from these challenges. And so one thing I want to just mention about that is not isolated to Bellevue, because in order to budget well in a school district, it is very, very challenging. And everything that we do to budget and to spend is based on assumptions that we make. How many students we're going to have enrolled, how many students are going to qualify for special education, if there's a snowstorm and how much we have to pay, to clear our streets and things like that. All of these assumptions we make, which impact, and what I will say is for Bellevue, we didn't have the sufficient internal budget controls, which then made all of these other challenges exacerbated. On top of that, I just put here, we had uncertainty of federal funding most recently. And so the good news is the federal government is planning to release $1.2 million that they've been holding from the Bellevue School District for this year, which is good news. However, we are expecting that they're going to pull that funding for the next school year. So uncertainty around federal funding is continuing to be an ongoing challenge. All of that then culminates in what I refer to as the perfect storm, impacting not just Bellevue, but districts around our state, which has resulted in us spending down our fund balance, which then resulted in us being in binding conditions with OSPI, the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction. I've had a lot of questions about what binding conditions is and what it isn't. And so I just want to make sure that we're clear about binding conditions. So I'll start by talking about what it is not. The first thing is, it's not a state takeover of the Bellevue School District, our finances or our operations. And so there have been some questions about, is the state taking over the district? And binding conditions is not a state takeover of the district. We still maintain local control over our district and the decisions that we make for our school district. Binding conditions is also not insolvency. Binding conditions is a preventative step to prevent districts from going into insolvency. Binding conditions is also not punitive, and it's not a sign of mismanagement or wasted money. In fact, our fund balance, we spent our fund balance down in order to provide services for mental health, for class size, lowering class sizes, for addressing operating costs and things like that. So all of the money that we spent out of our fund balance went to paying for all the operating costs for our district, as well as meeting the needs of our students. What binding conditions is then, is it is a collaboration with the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction, or OSPI, to ensure that we're on a path to restoring our fund balance. Binding conditions are mutually agreed upon targets or conditions to restore the district's fund balance. Binding conditions allows for increased communication and data sharing between us and OSPI. Binding conditions was a proactive ask by myself and the school board so that we could get enhanced support as well as enhanced access to options for recovery. So that is what binding conditions is. It really is a partnership between us and OSPI to make sure we're on the path to restoring our fund balance. I then want to talk about, and this is kind of the most important thing, but I'll start by just kind of explaining the graphic. For those who recognize it, the graphic on the top is basically a picture of Apollo 13. And so if you know the story, the true story of Apollo 13, they were trying to travel to the moon, and then there was, I think, an oxygen tank blew up or something, and there was no way for Apollo 13 to get back to Earth. And so Apollo 13, the people on Apollo 13 had to work with people at Mission Control in order to figure out what can they do, one, to survive, and then two, to get back to Earth. And so together they worked on this kind of strategy to use the orbit of the moon to to whip around And then that would get them back to planet Earth. And we know that that worked. I bring that up because there is a similarity between that and what we're able to do while we're in binding conditions. Bellevue, by being in binding conditions, we are on an accelerated path to recovery. And this is good news for our school district. And so one thing I'll mention, the first one is Senate Bill 5412, which was passed in the 2025 legislative session. It allows districts in binding conditions to do two things. One, to take interfund loans without interest to cover cash flow issues. And two, to sell surplus property and to use the funds more flexibly, including to restore the fund balance. So this bill allows districts in binding conditions, which now includes Bellevue, to take loans from ourselves, our other kind of pots of money, and to be able to sell surplus property. This is huge for us because tonight our school board is voting to sell a piece of surplus property, which is on the backside of Somerset, with a planning close date of no later than spring 2027. I want to mention that this was something that was in the works for over a year before we knew that we were facing fund balance issues and well before we knew about the Senate Bill 5412. So part of this is surprise, but part of it is also smart strategizing on behalf of the district because the Bellevue School District worked with legislators in order to ensure that districts that were in binding conditions could take advantage of this bill. And so we're very excited about this opportunity because by selling this piece of property, it is going to rapidly accelerate the rebuilding of our fund balance. We've, for a long time, have wanted to sell property to be able to do something like this, but it had never been an option before. But with this bill, 5412, we are able to do that. And so this is going to accelerate our path to recovery for the school district. And then on top of that, starting in 2026, House Bill 2049 allows us to increase our local levy collection by approximately $500 per student, which comes out to about $5 million starting in January for the 25-26 school year, and then $10 million every year after that, which will then increase by an inflationary factor. And so between the increase in our what we're allowed to collect in our levy and the ability to sell property to restore our fund balance, we are going to cut our recovery down from what could have been 7 to 10 years to somewhere around 2 to 3 years, which is amazing for our kids. And so I just want to say these things didn't happen by chance. We have amazing people in our district. We have really incredible legislators. Our school board played a role in advocating for all of these things, but this really represented a partnership between so many people in order to give us the tools to get back to a place of safety and recovery. And I'm going to be sending out a letter to the community just explaining some of these things, but you can even think of with binding conditions, OSPI and connected to them, Puget Sound ESD, they're kind of like our mission control. I mean, they are people on the ground who are providing extra support, extra guidance, extra thought, ideas in order to support us. And so we're really proud of the partnership. We're really thankful for OSPI for this. And this is good news for Bellevue. I've mentioned this before. I don't regret spending money on kids, on their mental health and on their needs. We're not glad to be in binding conditions, but we are going to use binding conditions to recover quickly. Let's see. Related to that, so the last kind of bullet there is, it says community support is pouring in. And I'll just say, in addition to those two big things, we have had an outpouring of support and encouragement from our community. Bellevue has always been a city that has supported public education. The Bellevue School District is what it is because of the support that we have in our community. And I want to kind of close my time by highlighting one of those things. And so I'd love to invite Wendy Wire, our Director of Nutrition Services, to come up, and she is going to help me with this presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Aramaki. My name is Wendy Wire. I am the Director of Nutrition Services, and I want to thank you for giving me just a few minutes to talk about some of the positive things that have occurred over the last year with the school meal program. For the last several years, Nutrition Services has kind of ended our year putting together a infographic kind of to highlight some of the successes and accomplishments of our program. One of our major highlights over this last year was a growth of student participation in our school meal program. Last year, we served 1.47 million lunches in our district. That's a gain of 10% over last year. We're up about 20% over the last 2 years. Just to break that down a little bit for you, because I know that can seem like a very large number, we serve on average about 8,200 lunches a day. So if you correlate lunches to actual students, we're serving a little over 8,000 of our students a school meal or school lunch each day. Our gains in lunch participation last year correlates to about 700 more students coming and having lunch with us each day. Our breakfast program saw gains of about 25%, which correlates to about another 250 students coming each morning and having breakfast. While we have introduced many new menu items over the last year, we know that some of the reasons for our participation growth has to do with our ability to double the number of schools that are able to offer no-cost meals for all of their students. These programs are and will continue to be offered next year at Ardmore, Highland, Lake Hills, Phantom Lake, Sherwood Forest, and Stevenson. While we are thankful that federal and state funding allows us to provide no-cost meals for students that qualify, we are also approached each day by students without funds to pay for their meals. We are required by state law to provide a meal to a student that requests. This purchase becomes a charge or a debt to their student meal account. By the end of last school year, we had over $40,000 in unpaid meal debts on active student accounts. These debts were on approximately 1,000 of our students having some type of debt on their account. Like any debt, unpaid meal charges can be a very stressful situation for families and also students. We are extremely thankful for the financial support we receive from our families, particularly those of graduating seniors who will often at the end of the year make a donation of any unused funds that remain on their students' accounts, and our community partners such as Bellevue LifeSpring. Bellevue LifeSpring's mission, similar to our own, is to break the cycle of poverty for children and students in our community. During the school year, their break time mealtime program provides grocery store vouchers to cover students' meals during school breaks. Their generosity doesn't stop there, as they have graciously continued to provide funding in the form of a donation to Nutrition Services to pay off the debts that are owed on student meal accounts. This year's $45,000 donation will ensure that all families have the ability to start the new year without a debt on their students' accounts. On behalf of Nutrition Services and the students that we serve, I would like to ask that you join me in thanking Bellevue LifeSpring, who is represented by their Executive Director, Jennifer Fisher, for this generous gift. Your organization's gratitude is greatly appreciated.
School board members and Dr. Aramaki, thank you for having me here today. And I just wanted to say that this was a very easy decision for our board to make. It is, as you mentioned, very consistent with our mission as well as our goal to end hunger and homelessness for all children in Bellevue. So on behalf of our board, I am very happy to erase this lunch debt for more than 1,000 children in our community.
Is it okay if we take a photo real quick? Okay. Okay.
Oh, just about.
And I also should say it's on behalf of all of our donors and investors
It
in this
is,
work.
right.
It's the community.
I'll just close. This is my last slide, but recently, U.S. News and World Reports put out a report on the top 250 cities for best quality of life in the United States. And Bellevue ranks number 4 out of best cities. And so you can see this little blurb down here. It talks about, the parks. We do have beautiful parks and all of that. Talks about weather. Right now it's gorgeous. So, but you can see there at the very bottom, it says Bellevue ranks number 7 nationally for college readiness, with the Bellevue School District ranking number 1 in the state. And I just want to close by saying, we're going through some financial challenges, although we have really smart people that are helping us recover very, very quickly, and great partnerships. And Bellevue LifeSpring has been an organization around since, I think, the turn of the century, 1900, around that time, 1910 maybe. And their mission has been to take care of people in need for all of these years. And I think because of organizations like Bellevue LifeSpring, plus our school district, plus the community, Bellevue truly is, I think people can agree, one of the top places to live in the United States. And so I just want to say to the community, we're going to get through these hard times. We've been through hard times before as a community. We're going to get through it. We have a very clear and hopeful path forward. And then we're going to continue to provide an innovative and excellent education for kids, one that families will be proud of, and that is going to prepare kids for an incredible future, whichever they choose. And so I just want to say thank you to our community. We have really an amazing community that supports public education, and we will continue to provide a great education for our community. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. And now we're on to public comment. So I will just go over the public comment guidelines. Okay. The board values public input and allocates 20 minutes per meeting for public comments, with each speaker limited to 2 minutes. Comments must be civil and within legal and district policy boundaries. The meeting chair may end comments that exceed time limits or violate standards of civility. The board expects the same level of civility that the board imposes on itself. Uncivil comments include those that are libelous, obscene, violate privacy, incite unlawful acts, or disrupt the meeting. The board reserves the right to maintain order, but differentiates between uncivil remarks and critical yet respectful commentary. Mr. Harrison, will you please introduce the public commenters?
I would be happy to. It's relatively easy tonight. We only have one public commenter registered. Mr. Alex Zimmerman, if you would make your way up, would be fantastic. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm too old, too disabled, a little bit crazy probably. I'm so sorry. Yeah, so my name is Alex Zimmerman, and I want to speak about something what is, I think, very important. Yeah, about board and about superintendent. In my opinion, totally different than your opinion. I think you doing very bad job. And superintendent, for example, he cannot be CEO, you know what I mean? I don't think so he can qualify for this position for CEO. Maybe he's a good teacher, but superintendent supposed to be a businessman. That's not her. The situation what is we have right now, guys, is very unique. You know what I mean? It's not because you give me 2 trespasses and I come back, and not because I'm candidate right now for Bellevue Council of District 6 against Mayor Robinson. You know what I mean? For me, very important what is you doing to school. In my opinion, totally negative. I give you one example. 2 weeks ago, Californian people fire all of it. Word. Totally. Wholesale price. Why? Because what is you doing is a bureaucratic point. When you're doing bureaucratic point, it's not good for children. and exactly for children from 5 to 12, because they don't understand, I guarantee you this 100% what is you doing. And about money, this BS, you know what it means. Why are you talking about COVID when this 5 years ago? It's a business. Man who know what it mean business, don't talking about what's happened 5 years ago. He talking what's happened today, what will happen tomorrow. I have business for all my life. I never talking what is a lose or win 10 years ago. I'm good or bad. So Superintendent Amaraki, he not qualify for this position. Teacher maybe, but like a businessman 3-0, is my opinion, straight. Guys, what is important, what is I thinking very important, you have a rules for children from 5 to 12, you destroy their life.
Thank you.
Welcome. I don't think so. You give me trespass for this, yeah? Thank you. Thank you.
That was slander. Sorry. Okay. Next, we have board business. So the first thing on the board business is the approval of the proposed meeting and school visit schedule for next year.
So I'll introduce this one. What we would like tonight is your approval of the 25-26 regular meeting and school visit calendar. You've had access to both documents for a couple of weeks now. I think we're fairly solid on the regular board meetings, but there was a suggestion made from directors on the school visit side to include a visit to programs and properties. So what you see right now are the draft board meeting dates. They follow our regular cadence, first and third Thursday, so no surprises there. But if you could switch to the school board, or sorry, the school visit calendar, everything is as you've seen before, except for the last one highlighted in yellow. We included a June date, but there was no school assigned. So we are proposing that on June the 2nd, I believe it is, that we do your tour of programs and properties. So that's the only change from the last time you saw this. And again, we are seeking your approval tonight for both of these schedules. And then assuming that they're approved this evening, they'll be included into the board governance calendar. And on September 12th, we'll be here to seek your approval of the board governance calendar.
Let's have a motion and some discussion. Who would like to move this?
I move to approve the school board calendar and the school visit calendar.
Second.
Okay. I would like to discuss. I'll go first this time. And I just want to say, I don't think we meant program. I didn't mean program and properties, because our fear was that programs would be not at their high point in June, because people will be doing other things and getting ready for the end of school year. So we thought maybe it would just be the properties tour. Other members can chime in. So who else would like to speak to this?
Programs, in sense like our language programs, may actually not be a bad time to take a look.
Okay.
Though we may be winding down towards the end of the program, but it would be also an opportunity to see them at its best of the year as well, because they have the entire year to really develop.
I'd particularly agree with the new program, the Japanese language program. It might be good to let them run for a season or a year and be able to look back on their first year of operations, get a more holistic view of what their situation is.
I'm just wondering if June is the best time to do it. I'm not sure. Is it?
Yeah.
I would think, since it's right at the beginning, because we have how many more weeks after that before? 3 weeks. So that might be enough time. Would that coincide with any testing or challenges that they may be trying to handle?
Yeah, it's kind of in that spot It'll be post AP exams and pre kind of any final exams that schools may schedule.
I just want to acknowledge that Memorial Day is on the 25th next year, so it's a full week after that, so it's not close to a holiday as well.
Right, well, I'll say that my thoughts weren't like, I'm not wedded to the idea that we can't go to the programs, so it'll be fine. All right, so any more comments? All right, in that case, let's have the vote. All those in favor of approving these schedules, please say aye.
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 All right, anybody opposed? No? All right, good, we're in. Next. Now we're going to talk about the approval of the sale of the Somerset property. So I'm going to call on our COO, I guess, to discuss this with us.
All right. Good evening, Board of Directors and community. Dr. Heather Sanchez, Chief Operations Officer for the district. And I'm pleased to present to you on behalf of the district a board resolution for seeking your approval for approval of a purchase and sale agreement of a surplus property in the Somerset area. So I have a little bit more information, a couple of slides, and you have in your packets the purchase and sale agreement as well for your review. All right, next slide, please. We have a couple of slides this evening, and I am going to go through each of the items simply because we probably have listening community that may or may not be able to see the slides, and I just want to make sure that some of the detail is available. And the details of what we're sharing here this evening will also be pending board approval, publicly available as well for public review. All right, so just a little bit of information about the role. Dr. Aramaki already spoke to the role that the sale of the surplus property plays as part of our financial recovery plan. It's significant, and here's some of the background that enables us to enter into this agreement. So we are selling property that is determined as surplus. And as Dr. Aramaki indicated, this is due to Senate Bill 5412, which went through the legislature in January of 2025. And specifically, it allows districts in binding conditions to deposit one-time property sale proceeds into the general fund. Previous to this legislature, we weren't able to do that. It would have to go into the capital projects fund. And of course, just contextually for any listening community members, our budget issues are within our general fund. And so the conditions are that we must be in binding financial conditions per OSPI, and formal OSPI approval is required. So just as a reminder for our community, as of July 10th, 2025, we entered into binding conditions, and that is essentially limited financial oversight by OSPI. Again, to reiterate, it is not the state taking us over or coming in and telling us how to run our district. It is a partnership, and these are conversations we've already engaged with at this point in time with OSPI. And so what is surplus property? Essentially, that means that it is property that is no longer needed for current or future educational use. And why is property declared surplus? If it's underutilized, outdated, or misaligned with strategic goals and not needed for instructional or operational purposes. More specifically, for the Somerset property, the location of this particular property is not conducive to the construction of any school because of the location. And we do have other properties at our disposal should we in the future need to engage in construction of another elementary school. You have before you the legal framework. This does require the board to pass a resolution declaring the property surplus, which our board of directors, which you all did, in June of 2025. The sale must serve public and district interests, and the process must be transparent and legally compliant. The surplus status allows the sale of the property to a private party. In this case, it's Tri Pointe Homes. And in this example, we have followed the process to responsibly transition unused land into a productive asset supporting district-wide goals. So that's some of the framing about the why and the legislative authority and the laws that are governing the process that we have before you this evening. Next slide, please. All right, so here are the details of the purchase and sale agreement that you have before you this evening. The buyer is Tri Point Homes of Washington, and they are a residential developer. This property is intended to be used for residential development. The purchase price on the purchase and sale agreement is $30 million, paid in full, less the earnest money at closing. The earnest money is $1.5 million secured by promissory note, and that becomes non-refundable upon the feasibility approval, and it's held in a restricted account. Community commitments on our behalf as a district in partnership with the buyer are ongoing updates on permitting, transparency with our board, and of course with our community. In terms of what our community can expect, we are seeking board approval tonight on the purchase and sale agreement, so that would be tonight estimated. That begins the feasibility period upon execution. The waiver deadline would be October 2025. Our target closing date would be December 2026, and the outside closing date, and that just means the latest with extensions, would be June of 2027. And again, just to reiterate, I know our board is aware of this, but for any listening community, these funds will enable us to restore our general fund balance. So it's not money that we're going to turn around and spend right away. Per board policy, we are required to have a certain percentage. It's like our piggy bank. And the sale of this property will enable us to restore our piggy bank to where it should be, and will greatly enable us to restore our financial stability as a district. So again, the details that I just shared will be publicly available later this evening. And with that, I turn it over to you, Board of Directors, for your consideration.
Do we have a slide with the wording of Resolution 2025-09 on it? Because I think the board would like to see what they're voting on.
Yeah, we can pull up the resolution.
Yeah. Do you all have
I can read it.
copies of it?
It
No.
should be in your board packet.
Huh?
So what happened, you received the resolution today by email, and you should have received
Oh,
hard
okay.
copies. You should have received hard copies as well
I'll
tonight.
read it. I should read it into the record?
But we're happy to go ahead and project
We
that.
can project it as
Okay.
well.
Yes, especially for any community that may be
Yes.
viewing the meeting.
So, do you want me to read it? Or do you want to assume that putting it up on the screen is enough for people?
I think it would be wonderful if you were to read it.
Okay. Bellevue School District Number 405, Bellevue, Washington, Resolution Number 2025-09. Whereas the Bellevue School District is the owner of 10.1 acres of certain real property known as Somerset 2, with parcel number 222-405-9024, located on the backside of Somerset near Forest Drive Northeast. The property is undeveloped and does not have an address. And whereas the Somerset 2 property has steep slope areas and wetlands, making it a challenging site for the construction of an elementary school at this location. And whereas the district owns other parcels of land south of I-90 that would be more suitable for the construction of an elementary school if an additional elementary school is needed in that area in the future. And whereas in accordance with RCW 28A 335.120, the Board of Directors held a public hearing on June 20th, 2024 to take testimony or any written comments on whether to declare Somerset 2 surplus and for sale. And whereas following the public hearing, discussion occurred among the board directors whether to declare the Somerset 2 property surplus to the district's needs and for sale. And whereas the district has complied with the requirements of RCW 28A.335.120 and has declared Somerset 2 surplus and for sale. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Directors of Bellevue School District Number 405 that the Board of Directors of Bellevue School District Number 405, King County, Bellevue, Washington, approves the execution of a real estate purchase and sale agreement, known as the agreement, by and between the Bellevue School District, a Washington Municipal Corporation, known as the seller, and Tri Point Homes Washington, Inc., a Washington corporation known as the purchaser, the superintendent or his designee is authorized to execute the agreement and to take all action necessary to complete the transaction consistent with the agreement. That is the motion, and since I just read it, I will move it.
Second.
Okay. Now, it's open for discussion. Any discussion? All right, Director Block.
I just want to reiterate a couple of things, some history that's gotten us to this point that I think some of it was there, but one is that we did have a lot of internal discussions, including site visits that I participated in a year ago. At that time, we thought we had a strong reserve balance. We're not in binding conditions. So the fact that this was declared surplus property is not at all related to binding conditions. However, we do see potential benefits to being in binding conditions now as far as how we can use it. However, my understanding of this resolution is this authorizes the superintendent to proceed with the sale. It doesn't necessarily state where the proceeds from the sale end up as far as which account. And so there may be a future decision or direction as far as when the transaction closes to assign those. I also will note that the school district employed a lot of experts to help us through this process. We were represented by a real estate agent. We had a very competitive process in the sale process. We had, I think, 5, 6, 7 bidders that were responsive and provided us with a very competitive set of bids. It was a very well-received property, and we had a very, very good bidding process. Further, in the engagement with Tri Point Homes, we're also supported by legal counsel that are supporting the board, outside legal counsel to support that transaction. And so I just wanted to make sure that those points are in the record. Really appreciate the summary. Thanks.
Director Arist.
I do want to add to that is in our discussion, part of the reason it comes down to selling the property is not just to spend on our regular costs, but it's also to make sure that we have a reserve, which we have depleted. In order for us to come out of binding condition, that has to be addressed first. And my understanding is that's what we're going to tackle immediately. Oh, go ahead. No, that's all right.
Yes, I totally agree with the other board of director, and I would like also that the district take very seriously and do their best to end the deal on December 2026. So whatever you can do to have everything ready, all the paperwork ready at the fastest, it could be very beneficial and to be on top of it. Thank you.
Director Webster.
Thank you. So just a couple of things that I want to reiterate, just in conversations that I've been having over the past week or so from community members around what the property is going to be used for. Thank you so much for clarifying that it's for single-family homes. But then also there were some questions around what kind of amenities might be offered to our community. And I just want to offer that it is pretty common in Washington State for land developers to display signage, for community members to kind of view the project plans for the piece of property. And although we don't really have any say over that, I just wanted to offer that to the community that may be an option that TRICARE, it's called TRICARE, Tri Point Homes may choose to take advantage of. And I'm not sure, I know that in some states there are requirements, some sort of like city ordinances that require it. I don't know if the city of Bellevue does, but just wanted to make sure that I at least address that. And then the other question that came up this week was around the neighborhood schools and sort of what the impact might be. And what I feel like I understand, and Dr. Sanchez, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that the district does plan to stay attentive to any potential adjustments that might be necessary at those surrounding schools in that area if there is need for that. And then the last thing that I just want to say is that I really appreciate how patient our families, our local partners, our local businesses, and our residents have been with us throughout this entire process. Our goal is to make decisions that strengthen our school district's financial stability. And although this is just a one-time allocation of funds, it ultimately helps us to reinvest in our district's financial health so that we're able to continue to provide the high-quality education that we're known for as we continue to advocate for full funding from the state in education. So I just want to say thank you to all of our partners and our community for their patience. Yep.
Okay, and I just want to add a few things. I want to emphasize a few things that were said. One of them is we can't build anything useful to a school district on this piece of land due to the slopes and wetlands. So and my understanding is that we may have gotten this piece of land in the 1960s. You all can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what I heard. And that's a long time to not be able to use a thing. So it's not really of any use to us. And then I want to talk a little bit about general fund reserved and why we need to have a general fund reserve. Obviously, we've been talking about you have to have it for binding conditions. You have to have it because OSPI wants you to have it. You have to have it because there is a board policy that says you have to have it. But really, why do you have to have it? Well, because the way the state gives us the money for the kids that are enrolled, it comes in chunks at the state's convenience, and there's a period of time where there's a lag and we have to make payroll, but they don't give us the money in time. So we need to dip into that sometimes. If we have a lot of money, we didn't always have to dip into it. But if you don't have it, then you might have to take a loan from another fund and pay interest and all that. So it can smooth out that cash flow problem. So that's a real reason for having it. And another real reason for having it is if, we had some kind of an earthquake or bird flu pandemic or something where somehow federal funds didn't come or were delayed or something. We need money to be able to deal with those situations, unanticipated whatevers. So it's not just like, oh, somebody said we have to do this. There's real reasons that we need it. So with that said, I'm going to call for the vote, and we're going to do a roll call vote by Director Arias. So Director Block.
Aye.
Director Watson, that's me. Aye. Director Trias.
Aye.
Director Webster.
Aye.
Director Aris.
Aye.
Okay, that resolution is approved.
Thank you.
Next, we are going to go over the upcoming annual plan, which should be interesting to everybody.
I think so. And I was just thinking to myself, managing the finances of a school district is so critical because the better we do that, the more stable we create kind of the operations and finance of the school district, the better we can focus on the real things that matter to our families, which is their kids' academics, their well-being, their belonging. And so I'm very excited that, one, thank you for passing that. And I'm very excited about talking about the focus for this coming year and hoping that the board will approve our annual plan. So just a little bit of history first. You will recall that the board approved a strategic plan in 2024. And that's where we came up kind of with the 3 goal areas. We belong, we learn, we lead. We want our students to feel a deep sense of belonging when they're here in our schools. We want them to learn. We want them to be able to achieve the highest levels of what they can achieve. And we want our students not only to belong and to learn, but we want them to be able to lead and have agency in the schools, in their communities, and then into the future. And so on June 5th of this year, the board approved the strategic plan goals, so the actual goals and metrics. And this is just a summary of them, but under We Belong, we want to build a beloved community where students experience belonging and they don't experience harm or discrimination. We also want our kids to be here, and we have an issue around chronic absenteeism. Under We Learn, we want to deliver on our core deliverables, which is all kids reading, being literate, and being proficient at mathematics. We also want our students in whatever class they're in to experience a deep sense of engagement and excitement in the classroom. Under We Lead, as I mentioned, we want our students to have a sense of agency, that they have power to control their environment. And we want our students to graduate from the Bellevue School District ready for the future of their choosing. That means we want kids to be equipped with college credits. We want kids to have the opportunity to earn the seal of biliteracy. We want students to have industry certifications from the CTE courses that they take. On top of that, we want Bellevue to have sustainable systems that support all of those things. That includes financial stability. We want to have a human-centered school district that puts people first. We want to take care of staff well-being and engagement, and we want to be good to our planet. And so we have a focus as a system on environmental sustainability, which is a goal that was put forward by the school board and adopted into policy. So with that, the way that we actionalize those things is, my clicker's not working. Thank you. The way we actionalize that is we create annual plans. So in the 5-year strategic plan, every year we create specific goals related to the strategic plan. This year, the way we have organized it, and the board has gone through this at a retreat, so we've gone into depth with this, but we've organized the annual plan into 3 focus goals, 7 foundation goals. And I'll just take a pause here to mention, last year was kind of a bridge year. We had 20 initiatives that we were kind of pushing through. And it wasn't things that we were just starting. It was a lot of things that we had been working on, getting a lot of traction around, as well as a few things that we started. But we took 20 and we've narrowed it down to 10, 3 focus areas and 7 foundation goals. That is by the direction of the board. The board was very interested in us being able to focus as a system, but also not to overtax our educators, especially during a year where we're experiencing a lot of financial distress and less staff to do the work. Focus goals are the things that we as a whole system are going to put all our efforts toward to measure and achieve. The focus goals have specific quantitative outcomes that we can measure. The foundation goals are goals that we are going to rally around, that we want to build and strengthen. They include some qualitative, experiential, or system level indicators. They may not necessarily include quantitative goals yet. So going into a little bit more depth on focus and foundation goals, the 3 focus goals are these. Number 1, what we just talked about, we want financial stability. And so our goal is to increase our fund balance from a negative $5 million to at least negative $3 million by August 30th, 2026. That is part of our binding conditions agreement with OSPI. Related to that, we want to continue to increase enrollment in the Bellevue School District. And so we are going to be working on innovative programs and things that attract our families to the Bellevue School District. That's one of our focus goals. That is going to be a main point of topic. We have every other study session with the board focused on our finances. The second focus goal is under We Learn, and that is to improve literacy and math proficiency. We have goals around improving 3rd grade literacy, 5th grade math, and 8th grade math. We want to improve literacy and math proficiency for all students and by a minimum of 3 percentage points for all of our underserved groups. Related to that, it's in the plan, but it's not mentioned here, but this also includes students who have IEPs and 504 plans, because some students, they might have individualized goals around literacy and math, and they're included in this. We want them to meet their goals and targets as well. The 3rd focus goal is under We Belong, and that is to address chronic absenteeism. Bellevue, just like districts across the entire nation, Director Webster has talked about this before, but we we struggle with students who aren't coming to school for a number of reasons, whether it's mental health or whatever. And so we really want to tackle this issue of chronic absenteeism because the data that we're seeing shows that kids who are coming to school regularly have far better outcomes than kids who don't. And so our goal in this area is to reduce chronic absenteeism by 1 to 2 percentage points for all students and by a minimum of 2 to 3 percentage points for our underserved groups. These goals are one-year goals, but when you add them up for 5 years, you can see that we are hoping to make some substantive growth in all of these areas over the course of 5 years. Our foundation goals, this is just kind of the general highlight of foundation goals, but these are the things that we need to build in our system to achieve our focus goals. One, under We Belong, we want to build the beloved community. We want our kids to have a sense of safety physically, but also a sense of safety in their identity, in their social, emotional, and in their relationships with others. Second, under We Learn, we want students to be engaged in the learning experience. And so this year we are rolling out the new Danielson framework, which is the framework of teaching that we use for professional growth and evaluation of teachers. But we're going to focus all of our efforts on supporting student engagement in the classroom. What that includes is we want our teachers, when they're planning, to know their kids, know their IEP goals, know their 504 accommodations. We want them to know their kids culturally. We want them to know their kids' religions. We want them to know everything beautiful and amazing about the kids, as well as the needs that individual kids have, so that they can prepare their lessons well for the students. Once in the classroom, we want our kids to be engaged intellectually. We don't want them just passively listening. We want them to be engaged in projects and learning and discourse with one another. And then we want kids to be able to receive feedback from teachers that helps them with their learning. And so 3 focus areas under this are planning and preparation with a focus on knowing the diversity of the kids and their needs, engaging kids in learning intellectually in the classroom, and then giving kids feedback. Under We Lead, we have 2 kind of focus foundation goals: student agency I've talked about, and future ready, which I've talked about. And then under sustainable systems, human-centered systems, we want to be a people-first organization where people feel that they are treated with respect and kindness and great support. We want to take care of our staff, and we want to take care of our planet. So, is that it? Yeah, that's it. So, the staff, we're very excited about this annual plan. We're so thankful to the board for your guidance and encouragement to be focused. We think that we're going to get a lot done this year and over the next 5 years. And we are going to build out school improvement plans that align to this so that we're kind of pointing everybody in the same direction to make an impact system-wide. And with that, I will turn it over to President Watson.
Okay, so we're ready for some board discussion on this. Let's see. We have to approve the plan, so I guess we should start with a motion. So,
I move to approve the 2025-2026 annual plan.
Second.
okay. All those in favor? No. So let's discuss first. I'm like, oh, let's be done. No, we have important things to say. All right, who would like to go first? Who's got their hand up?
Sure, I'll go. Go ahead.
Okay. Director Trias.
Yes. I would like to start by emphasizing the innovative way that our 2024-2029 strategic plan was co-created. Students, staff, families, and community were involved using an inclusive design process centered around empathy, inclusion, co-creation, and reciprocity. So this 2025-26 annual plan marks the beginning of a multi-year implementation effort that reflects not only a set of goals and key strategy, it's also a call for a cultural and structural transformation. I really appreciate you are taking into consideration our staff reduction and budget constraints. I value the effort to remain realistic while focusing on what matters most, supporting student learning, well-being, and success. I particularly like the three focus groups: financial stability, math literacy proficiency, and chronic absenteeism. I appreciate that you incorporate the suggestion I share with you in our meeting, particularly planning monthly budget communication to the community, continuing legislative and community funding advocacy, working proactively with families and students to reduce chronic absenteeism and boost voluntarism. Thank you for presenting this annual plan. I would like to close by encouraging the development of a strong and intentional communication strategy to ensure our entire school community is well informed, aligned, and actively engaged. I really like this plan.
Okay, who's next? All right.
Yeah, I'll just kind of reiterate what I said earlier this week. I think that this plan is clear. I think it's distinct. I think that it supports some of the most critical priorities that we have, particularly around the absenteeism that we've been talking about over the last year, literacy and math. And the other thing that I really appreciate is the intentionality around using that EDDM framework as we are engaging with our families, with our students. I know that that has been an area of focus for the district for the past year or so, just in different spaces. And I think that it's important that we remain focused on ensuring that we are engaging with those whom we're serving. So thank you for highlighting that at the very beginning of the written plan. I really appreciate that. And the one question that I have that might need further exploration beyond the day, but as I was kind of thinking about the future ready opportunities for our students, I wondered how we plan to involve our families in shaping those opportunities, especially in the underrepresented communities, to ensure that they have the access and support that they need. You know, our families often have valuable insights and they're kind of the subject matter experts of their students. And I just want to make sure that any information or feedback that they have around how best to serve their students and kind of what their needs are isn't missed. And I think that it's worth exploring opportunities to continue to engage in partnership with our families whenever we have an opportunity. And it seems like this might be an opportunity for us to do that. So other than that, I love the plan as well. Thanks.
Okay, Director Black?
Yeah, I'm going to echo this. We've worked together with you for a long time, and I think we're all really excited about this plan. Both the goals and strategies and targets that are within it, but also that it's accessible to the entire community. It's very clear. It's very transparent. I mean, I was one of the people who said, you know, hey, maybe we need some things that we focus on that are top of the list. And I think these are the right things to have at the top of the list. There are some of the things that are in the foundation goals that I think are very important as well. I don't want anyone to think that we're ignoring any of those. In particular, just to reflect on some discussions from the past, we've talked about special ed, making sure that we're supporting those students and with fidelity to their IEPs and the meeting process and the scheduling to make sure that they're inboarded. Also, staff support, particularly as our school communities get a little bit smaller, and as far as staffing, as we lose some of the support that maybe some staff have been used to having and leaning on in the past, making sure that they have the support and that they do what they need. I reflect on that, having a brother who's retired at the end of last year at 55, and he was worn out. And I know that that's not unique. I've talked with a lot of teachers who feel the strain, and some will have slightly larger classes next year. Fortunately, not too much larger. We're going to try to be as close to the targets as possible, I think, but want to make sure that we're not straining our system more than we need to and providing the teachers with the supports they need to make sure that we've got tremendous supports. To me, this plan says where we're headed. And while we're the #1 district in the state today, we want to be better tomorrow and that we will continue on that trajectory to improve for all our students. Thank you.
Okay, Director Ars?
Okay, I concur with everything that was said by my fellow board directors. I do believe that this is a great, manageable, and kind of going back to the basics, but in order for us even to get here, I think all the hard work that has been put forward by our community, our staff, and everyone here, as far as creating a good foundational strat plan, as well as just pulling together when all the hard times were hitting us hard, including our financially, and reflecting at how it just seems like everything came together. It just perfectly, though it was challenging. I do agree with the 3 specific focus goals. I have a couple of wonders and a question. First of is the financial stability. I wonder if, I know part of where we are in the space we are is because we had community members and we had staff and everyone else really digging in and trying to put their brains and energy into coming up with solutions. It wasn't just one person, but many. And I would want to make sure that we keep that door open and create opportunities for everyone to feel like they could still continue to help us move forward. And so as we focus on this, and I know the leadership is going to work on it, make sure that we continue to keep that door open as wide as possible so that we could really create that strong base. And then as far as the literacy and math, going back to the basic of really making that strong, I appreciate some of the curriculum that we have put into place, and as well as the training. Just one more. But I am, improved 3rd grade, I'm wondering about improving our MLL students, especially in the middle school, and that target, I think is something that hasn't been mentioned. And the final is, I'm going to restate, as I said on Monday, I think it is really crucial that we all are on the same page regarding policies around all of these.
Okay, and my turn. I love the way this is succinct and the way the pieces of the plan are kind of chunked under, financial and academics and absenteeism and these other things, because when you from learning theory, when things are chunked, you can remember them. And since I've been on the board, there have been these voluminous plans some years where if you can't remember what the plan was, how are you going to implement it? So this is great. We really can get this in our brains. And then I wanted to appreciate my fellow board members, because one of my main concerns coming into this process was about the whole special needs things, because I meet with special needs parents and I just hear time and again how problematic the whole thing can be. So I appreciate that we did get IEPs under the We Learn goal, trying to follow those with fidelity. But I also want to say to the teachers that I do recognize that things are going to be a lot harder because there are going to be additional students in each class. And I'm hoping that this streamlined Danielson framework thing, where we're going to really focus on 3 of those goals for evaluations, are going to make this whole thing a little easier on teachers and the principals who are doing the observations and stuff. So those 3 things, really knowing your students, hopefully there's time at the very beginning of the year for that to be figured out. And then making lessons interesting. I know all teachers are always trying for that, but so we'll emphasize that. And then the grading, so the kids are getting some feedback in a timely manner so that they know what to work on and can improve themselves. So I'm just calling that out because of my concern about the experience of the special needs kids. And so once we get to know them, hopefully we can do more for them. Thank you. Okay, so if there's any further discussion, I need to know now. And if there's not, I'm going to call for the vote. You want to say something?
Yeah, maybe let me just say, we're very fortunate to have the school board so involved in kind of this work and really thoughtful about how we actually, like what we want to achieve, but how we're going to implement it. A couple of just things I want to say. I really take the point well, Director Webster, about like the families should decide what future ready means for them. Like it's not just what we determine is future ready, but parents should be telling us, this is what I want for my child post-graduation, and we should be thinking about that. I think the point about we want to continue co-designing with families. We did such a remarkable job listening to community during the strategic planning process. We had students, families, community members, board directors, superintendent, sitting at tables together designing. That has to be the future of kind of how we do school improvement and district improvement. You know, it is a model, I think, for other districts. I take your point. Thank you very much, Director Aras, about multilingual learners at middle school, because, right, there's a different trajectory and some kids are coming later. And so how are we keeping our eyes on them? And so I was looking at Dr. Macias, because I think we do want to, even though these are our focus goals, we're going to be looking at literacy up and down K through 12. And so I just want to say thank you for your leadership in that area. And Director Block, we do thank you for the kind of the thinking about focus goals, because it really helped us to kind of think, what are the 3 big priorities, and then how do the other things kind of nest in? So thank you.
Okay, it's time to vote on approving this annual plan. Whoops, Director Arce.
Motion already.
We had I hope we did. So are we ready? All right. All those in favor of approving this annual plan for 2025-26, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed or abstaining? I don't think so. So that passes. We now have an annual plan. All right. Now we're going to have time for director discussion.
6.4, the
Oh,
consent
yeah,
agenda.
6.4, the mystery consent agenda item. All right. Who would like to start that discussion?
Yes, our Executive Director of Inclusion and Accessibility, Scott Powers.
Good evening, everyone. I wasn't prepared, so if there are, I know that there were some questions that came out of the board meeting on Monday, and I can maybe just address those. It would be probably a great way just to start. I know some of the questions came out just sort of where we are with total number of paras. That number does fluctuate over time and on our student needs and where we're at. So often, though, as we increase the total number of our students who have IEPs, our number of paras also increases as we have more students with those needs as they come in. So we have seen a change over time. This year, we, in the 24-25, had 368 paras under what we refer to as our 3 and 4 level, 368. 368, yes. So those were in the 3-4, so we actually have 4 different levels. Our 5 and 6 are our behavior techs, whether they're working directly in a building or working as a district is how we distinguish between those groups. So right now we are targeting 362 paras. Some of that we've been able to fade through the year, so we are projecting a little bit lower than where we were at the end of last year. Where our initial projections had us set adding about 25 kids to our total load of students with IEPs. Part of that is just where the matriculation process comes in, looking at our students coming out of our pre-K programs, students exiting. We had a little bit of a bump because we picked up students in our age 22 program last year. So that sort of enlargement or number of students happened previously. And so part of what we do with this, and I know there's some questions of like, how we built out the contract or what size the contract is going to be. Over the last few years, we have really tried to reduce the number of contracted positions that we have. 4 years ago, we were at 120 contracted paras. We had a contract for up to. We've made a concerted effort to really adjust that, have our employees be in those roles. And so we made a real shift down to this year. We were in that sort of 30 to 35 range. And again, part of it is we've got to be able to hire and find people. So it's taken time over 3 or 4 years to build up that level of folks and hire up to that, along with the natural attrition of people retiring, moving on, taking other jobs. We see that as an important piece of our para to educator pipeline. So we also we have folks that come in that are start as para educators and matriculate up into a teaching position in there. So what we do is figure out, like, what is that right number we think we can have, or we can hire for our para educators internally. And then we also then say, okay, then here's what we think we're going to need in terms of that flexibility with the para educators through an outside contract. And there are some advantages to that outside contract because it does allow us some flexibility. When we hire an employee, we're saying we're going to offer you employment. We expect to keep you until you're ready to leave. And so our contractors give us some flexibilities when students move to another district and maybe they had a one-on-one para, we may not need that para educator anymore. So the contract gives us some flexibility to then just say, great, I think we have about a 1 week lag time in there, and then we no longer pay for that para educator. So they allow us some of that flexibility. There are some specific students that, situations arise where we need to get somebody in immediately, faster than sometimes we can do the hiring process. So again, those para educators through the contract give us some flexibility. So it is a little bit of looking at the total numbers, who we think we can hire, and then also knowing that we want some of that flexibility from the contract in there. The number 21 really is what drives the dollar amount. Sometimes we have less para educators than 21. Sometimes through our Sunburst contract, we may have more than that. And it just is, again, sort of that flexibility that allows us to do that. And then what we do is manage and look at the number of the dollars that we spent and the expected hours that we can see going forward to manage that budget throughout the year. And then there was a last question around who sort of trains in the para educators. So we have worked actually with our contractor Sunburst over the last few years to make sure that a lot of the training that they're providing their para educators matches our training. So we've had that ongoing dialogue to make sure there's a lot of similarity. They also make sure they have the certifications and such that are necessary. Obviously, they're providing paras for a large number of districts in the area, but making sure that we do have a good, strong alignment. And then we also take them through a kind of an initial phase once they arrive to us so that we can kind of ramp them up specifically at the site. So I hope that answers some of the questions that came up or big ideas around the Sunburst contract.
Okay, well, here we go. This is something we need to approve. So let's start off again with a motion, and then we can discuss.
I move to approve the Sunburst workforce contract.
Second.
Okay, great. So now we're going to open to discussion. Anybody have something to say? Director Ars.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can.
Thank you for the update on the information that we have requested. I did have one question that I asked on Monday. I don't think it was addressed. And that is, are we, given our budget challenges, does this number that was brought to our attention include possible fluctuation of increase of possible needs of paras? For instance, if we have students moving in with an IEP, with a para in their IEP goals, of things of that nature. So I just want to make sure that we're being as clear as possible for any possible oopses.
Yeah. Overall, we try to do a prediction of how many students we think we have, and also then have some contingency, right? So where we're hiring at now is really based upon our best estimates of the number of students who have a need. With this idea, yes, we need to have a little bit of that contingency over there to be able to address those fluctuations.
All right, great, thank you.
Yes, thank you for the updates. And I'm not sure, I have two questions. I don't know if one is more for HR. But the first question is, I'm just wondering if we have a mechanism in place for the district to track how well or even if this supports are kind of meeting our needs as we have anticipated. And then my second question is, I know that, well, I would assume that we don't get the exact same paras year after year, that it could vary. And so even if it doesn't, they may not be in the same building, right, every year. And so I'm just wondering, before the contract ends, they spend a lot of time with the students, and I'm wondering if they share that information with our internal staff before the contract ends, so that when the following year comes, the student, we don't lose that information and that learning that those paras have acquired. So those are my questions.
Yeah. And then, I don't know if Jeff wants to add anything. I'll say a couple things about sort of that continuation of paras. Yes. Sometimes they're coming in an emergency situation. So it could be, let's say, someone on a short-term leave there for 6-8 weeks in a space. They're actually gathering information, then sharing that before they exit. We generally don't put our agency paras in a situation where they're not working with the staff, with other paras, so that information can easily be shared and they exit. And then we've also worked with the agencies that when a para's been with us long enough, we oftentimes, if we feel like they're a really good fit, we are hiring those folks. So there's a benefit for us. So if they're strong and really performing well, like we look for ways and mechanisms to be at. And I think we've had a fair number of folks move into that in there. Some of them still like the flexibility of working as a contractor, right? So that's an employee decision, right, for their part. But I think we've just kind of taken it and found ways to bring them in, keep that information flowing through the system as paras moving around.
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions. Really appreciate the summary. I think this is a part of the education system. Speaking as a parent myself, that a lot of parents aren't very aware of unless they have to engage with it. So helping us understand and describe to the community some of the costs, because just some back of the envelope numbers, roughly 1 para per every 50 students in the district is about where we are right now. And so that's kind of the unseen support that specific students are getting that a lot of parents don't necessarily see. And it's quite, we spend a lot of money on that. Ballpark, it sounds like about 95% of the paras are BSD employees and about 5% are maybe contract employees, just based on the numbers you provided me. That sounds like about what it is. I am curious, I know with a lot of these contract firms, I don't want to call them temps, but what is the period between when they first work from us before they could be offered a job? Is that a year? I know that that's kind of a common duration. I know that there should be some sort of period that's how the Sunburst makes their money, I'm sure.
Sure, and I know it isn't quite a year, but Jeff.
Okay, so there is a period though. We'll just stick with that for now. So I really appreciated the summary. I know that these are critical roles in supporting a lot of our students. Thank you.
What did I miss? Yeah, you're good. All right. I just wanted to say, tonight, Director Block is saying, the second time, no, it's fine, it's not a problem, but you think in the same way I am. So I did the math slightly differently, but decided if there were 362 overall paras and maybe 35 of them could be from the contractors, then maybe it was 10%. You got 5%. But regardless of that percentage, it's a low percentage. So that puts a lot of my concerns to rest, because what I didn't want to see was us making a move to have like the vast majority of our paraeducators not being direct hires. But it makes sense with the flexibility and the reasons that you might need the flexibility. So now my understanding is that we have direct hire paras, we have contractor paras, but I also am aware that we have substitute paras in our substitute pool that are paid directly if they agree to come sub. So how does that enter the picture? Is there anything we need to know about that?
No, they're just like our substitute teacher pool.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of those folks could be, as they come into the system, we would hire them as part of it if they want looking for long-term employment. They also could be people who are looking for greater flexibility in their schedule, right? So there's a variety, but we always look at those. And again, if it's the day-to-day absence, that's how we tend to use those, or a very short time, going to be gone 3 or 4 days.
smiling because my friend is a substitute para and she won't become full-time even though she's good at it because she wants to play mahjong with me on Wednesdays.
There you go.
All right. Now, moving on, let's call for the vote. Are we going to approve the, this contract? So all those in favor, let's say aye.
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 And I don't hear anybody opposed. So I will say that the thing we pulled out of the consent agenda is now actually approved, the Sunburst Workforce Advisors contract. All right, now we have completed board business. Correct me if I'm wrong. All right, and we'll go on to director discussion. So who has got some discussion they'd like to share? Let me see where we are in time. 6:15 to 6:30, we're good. So let's still make it relatively brief, but let's go ahead. Who would like to discuss something or mention something they've been up to or anything? All right. Okay. Wow.
Okay, I won. Well, I would like to share that before summer, Rainier athletes contact me because they were lacking on Spanish-speaking mentors. And they just asked me if I would like to become a mentor. So obviously, I always say yes to the people that ask my help. And yesterday, I went to the first event with the kids, and it was such a nice time. And just being with our students, just for your information, Rainier Athletes is one of our community members, and the mission is to affirm the students that they belong to our school district, and they work closely with the teachers, the coach, the mentors, and the family. So it's a super good loop, and I just felt in love. So I am going to be a mentor there, and more than that, I am all yours. So that it was very enlightening to be with the students. That's why we are here. It's all about the students, and sometimes not being seated here and being with them brings us, all of us, a lot of happiness. And I would like to extend also my sincere gratitude to Bellevue School Foundation, our PTSA, and all our valued community partners for their continued support and collaboration to Bellevue's students and families. Now, more than ever, it's essential that we continue strengthening this partnership to ensure every student has what they need to thrive as a creator of their future world. I know the upcoming year will bring some challenges, but by working in true partnership and by keeping our students at the center of every decision, we will move forward with purpose. And I don't doubt for a second that this shared focus will be the key of our success. I am completely confident that we will deal with everything because we love our students. And that's it, my message.
I actually want to start by asking if Dr. Armaki would just give a summary of our new legal support, since that's something that I know that there's been some community questions about, and that we have a new legal advisor supporting the board and what the role is there. Just a brief update.
Oh, sure. So our legal support, so we made a transition from having kind of general counsel in the school district to now we have kind of a number of kind of legal advisors that are supporting us. And so I don't know, John, if you want to talk about it. What I'll say is I've asked John Harrison, who is our chief of staff, to be chief of staff and the head of our kind of legal affairs department. And so do you want to just give a quick update kind of how we're restructuring to better support our staff, students, and families?
Sure, I'll keep it really quick. Obviously, in the absence of a general counsel, what was formerly known as the general counsel's office is now known as the legal affairs office under me. And the difference basically is, sometimes people have confused. I've got emails, congratulations, I hear you're our new general counsel. I'm like, no, I'm not your new general counsel. I'm not an attorney. I am a coordinator of legal support. So we have a team of outside counsel from different firms around the city in Seattle who are supporting us. And the nice thing is that these are people who have specific expertise in various areas of school law. So we have an individual a firm that we work with and an attorney that we work with for personnel. We have a firm and an attorney that we work with special education. We have an attorney that we work with in kind of general day-to-day legal issues. We've got an attorney that we work with on contracts who assisted with the purchase agreement that you approved tonight. And then we've got an attorney that we've appointed or we've retained to support you in your work as a board. So I'm excited. The legal affairs team is a really, really good team. We have a paralegal. We look after student records. We have it's a strong team, and I think it's going to be really, really good. So we'll see how it goes. The commitment is that we're going to try this out for this year and see how it works, and then make a decision once we've experienced life without a general counsel and life with a team of lawyers with expertise in various areas of school law.
Yeah, a couple of things I'll add to that. One is that we came to recognition that only a handful of districts in the whole state currently have general counsels. We feel that the system provides the purpose-built support that we need for each discipline, that all those are different subdisciplines. So just briefly on other things, it's great to see the planning for 2025-26. I know some of us have seen emails from PTSAs about their upcoming events. This is planning season for PTSA and partner organizations in addition to the schools. I think I heard Dr. Sanchez say the work really starts in August to get us ready for that September start of school. So looking forward to a very busy August as we do that. So really appreciate that, and I will leave it there. Thanks.
Okay, I'll go next because I never go in the middle. I'm either the beginning or the end. So in the middle, I will say I'm thinking about finances like all the time now. And I wanted to report a little bit to the community on some stuff around this AFAC, which is one of John's acronyms, the, what is it, Accounting, Finance, Action?
The Audit and Finance Advisory Council.
All right. So because I think the community might be reassured to know that, first of all, I think I said before, the people who volunteered to be on that with us are just amazing. We have a corporate vice president, a person who used to work in the big 8, now it's the big 4 accounting firms, like that's a national accountant type person, and somebody who used to be or may still be a state auditor. So this is like expertise. And that, so they're really impressive, and I'm really grateful to them. But I also think it's reassuring to the community that this is going on. And we got some really concrete ideas, I think, out of our last meeting, which we're going to operationalize. But one of it was, let's just list all the assumptions that go into the budget, and let's just interrogate the assumptions. Let's make sure every assumption that goes into the budget is solid, because that's kind of what tripped us up before. And then also this idea of doing the what if analysis, which is also known as the sensitivity analysis. It's, it's a very simple point, but it's one I'm not sure that the board had been seeing the results of in the past, where, what if things are, off, this assumption's off by 10%? What if that assumption's off by 10%? And you do a series of spreadsheets that show what that would look like, and then you come up with some contingency plans at what the worst case scenarios might be. So that is a fantastic idea. Then I also, wanted to reassure the public that the funds that we overspent, which we did overspend, were not wasted. I think we've said that before in this meeting, but I want to keep saying it. They were spent on good things for kids, really good things for kids, mental health support after the pandemic, and class sizes a bit smaller and so forth. So things are going to be tight. And that, so, and we're going to see things getting tighter as inflation goes up is my fear, because I just heard that Procter & Gamble is raising prices on everything. They said in their earnings call like yesterday. So it's happening. It's been slower to hit us, but the inflation is happening. And then, and then we know that we're going to be able to collect a little more levy, but my fear is that is not going to be enough to counter this inflation that we're already experiencing and that we are going to experience, but we don't know. So that's where the what if scenarios come in. So I guess I'm just sort of warning people that things are going to get a little tighter, but I guess on the optimistic note, I know we can survive this, because I was just reflecting with Yasmina Patterson. Both of us went through, like 2005 timeframe when there were no assistant principals and there were hardly any GSAs and all of that. I know we can do it. It's not going to be great. That's all I want to say. All right, Director Webster.
Wanted to say that I had a chance to go to the Lake Hills picnic, where I got to spend lots of time with some of our local and state elected officials, candidates that are running, and just got to learn a lot about those individuals just as people and that we have right here in our backyard who support our district, and just had some really, really wonderful conversations. I think that my favorite part is that we always have about 20 to 30 students from Sammamish football team that come and engage with the kids and play with them. And, it's summertime. They could be doing anything, but they come and they volunteer and have a good time with the kids that are there as adults are engaging in conversations. And there's always a football coach there that gives up their time to kind of watch the kids. And so I just wanted to say thank you to those kids and thank you to that coach for helping out every year. And then the other thing is I just, and she doesn't know I'm doing this, but I just want to give a shout out to Janine Thorne, who runs and operates our communications department. I know that our communications are rapidly evolving, and it's really challenging to keep up. And I just appreciate the dedication that team offers to our district and our board. And so thank you so much for all of your hard work. I know that we don't acknowledge you as much as we probably should, but thank you and the team so much for all your hard work. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to say this is it feels a little bit surreal. This is probably the first time in the 4 years that I've been on board where I feel a bit of a calmness as we're about to launch. And I have to say that as I reflect on, well, besides the fact that we got 3 weeks since our last board meeting, is that all of the great things that has been put into place and all the, whether it's the audit committee, our monthly financial report, our strat plan, our new annual goal, annual plan, and so on, and as well as a lot of new faces and new, just the reshaping of our community, and also the robust engagement this past year of our community wanting to make and help make a difference and continue the path of excellence. And so for me, I'm sitting here going, I am so thankful that we are all, we get to see Bellevue School District in the limelight on the U.S. News. I mean, it's a byproduct of everyone's great effort. So that's my 2 cents for our board meeting comments. I think I'm just thankful that we are, though we are walking in, and I know tomorrow is the 1st of August, and we've got a lot of work ahead of us. I'm thankful that we are where we are with the support that we have and the structures that we have put into place as we move forward and take a next step.
All right, we got a discussion from
Just one comment, yes.
Superintendent. Yeah.
There's an international festival happening on Saturday at Crossroads Park. I think it's like 1 to 5, 1 to 5. And so I'm going to be there. And we have a registration table for kindergarten families.
Oh.
And so if you haven't registered yet for kindergarten, now is the time. We'll have a bunch of district people there. and just in the middle of just celebrating the diverse cultures of our community. And so just want to put that out there. Please come.
Thanks.
All right.
All right, now it's time for a break before a study session. And our break was supposed to be 15 minutes, so I think it should still be 15 minutes. So that means, I was going to say, we'll come back when the big hand's on the 7, but at 25 to the hour. Okay, so I'll see you then. The board members will be in the other room.